Welcome, everyone, to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am your host, Matthew Long, joined here by my co-host, Kevin Crest. And, oh, okay, music? Okay, cool. He's the author of the P.K. Frazier novels. Also hear him on Lou in the Morning with Lou Vicker during the week as well. So great show. We got a great show set up for you today. We will, of course, as always, we're live on blogtalkradio.com as well as Spreaker.com. So what I found out, if you go to blogtalkradio.com in the browser on your phone, you can put the phone on lock and still listen to it. So that's an awesome thing there. If you're more of an app person, just download Spreaker app, speaker with an, S-P-R. So it's Spreaker instead of speaker app. Both free. You can download those and listen through those live every Tuesday. Or if you listen to the podcast version of the show, you can get it on. Where do I start? Of course, Blog Talk and the Spreaker app, where you're hearing it live. You can hear the podcast version. Of course, over on the website, the chtonsports.com. That's a no-brainer there. And then on top of that, you can go to SoundCloud, Somos, iTunes, YouTube, and on and on and on. Last week we did overtime segment on Facebook Live. So I appreciate all of you jumping in on Facebook Live. We're going to do it, we're going to try to do it on, what's it called? Periscope. There we go. On Periscope and on Facebook Live. We'll see if the two cooperate with one another. So that'll be for the overtime segment. You'll be able to get the overtime segment live video. So looking forward to that. Great show. We're going to get into the college football playoff rankings and seedings for tonight. Break down the coaching carousel, which I've been on top of the last few weeks. Breaking some news over there. We have some big stuff to talk about. Kevin and myself will also get into the NFL, where we're at coming into the playoffs, and more importantly, the level of violence that we see in the NFL. So we're going to weigh off on that. Also, Tiger Woods is back. It's an article I read, I think 4 or 5 years ago. Was it? Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. I just came across the article of Tiger Woods, and I think they're just republishing headlines now. But Kevin has more information on Tiger, what he's looking like, and the IOC came out with a decision today. A particular country, a great country, some call him an ally, be nice to be friends with, got banned. So we'll get more into that here in the show. In the show tonight. Again, the number to call in, as always, 347-237-5539. How are you doing tonight, Kevin? Well, let's jump right into the rankings. Now, we did a poll over on Twitter about, and you can follow. The Cold Hard Truth has a bunch of different forms. Obviously, what you're hearing is the radio show. We have the website, the CHT on Sports, and for you college football nuts, we have the CHT on CFB. Of course, gotta have that. So we did a poll over on the Cold Hard Truth on college football, and we basically asked people, because it really came down to the committee saying, who do you want to put in? You're going to put in. You're going to put in. Should you put in? Should they put in Alabama, or should they put in Ohio State? Which team will make it? That was the question. Which team will make it? So I guess everybody's going to go with who they want to make it rather than who they think is going to make it. That's usually what people do. And the poll says that 53% of people said Ohio State should make it versus 47% saying Alabama. Now, Kevin, I know you pay more close attention to college scheduling than most human beings. What do you think of the committee's decision between these two teams? Are you sure? Yeah. Or and well, that was admirable. All right. I'm not gonna. The top three are fine. However, I think that there is a realistic debate if you look into it and the habits of this committee and who they determined to be fourth. Now, Barrett Saleh came out, and I generally agree with his argument. If you're arguing over two teams that were imperfect teams of why they should be the last one in, at the end of the day, you're really arguing about two imperfect teams, and that's Alabama and Oklahoma State. Now, I don't take such huge consideration into Iowa beating Ohio State the way that they did. Now, is it something that it's tough to watch? Yeah. I also seen a Nebraska team who was poised to go far in a season lose to Iowa State and fumble three times within the 10-yard, their own 10-yard line to give the ball back before they, literally lose to a team that was, they should have walked off the field against. And it's just the head-to-head matchups and individual game determinations is tough to vary on. I think we can all step back and say that no one thinks Ohio State is a 30-some point underdog to anybody in the country. It's probably to the contrary. They're probably more 30-point favorites against most teams versus ever looking at a 30-point difference. So to be blown out in one game, it's not something huge. We've seen teams lose bad. It happens all the time in the NFL. I think the Patriots pretty much have a holiday at the beginning of the season that's called "Let's Lose Bad to the Chiefs," and then we'll go ahead and win a Super Bowl. I think that's kind of like, their ribbon cutting ceremony on the season. Lose bad to the Chiefs, and then we go win a Super Bowl. So what the outcome of one individual game is, I don't weigh so heavy on. Okay, but when you go down the schedule, and the committee did something pretty gangster, and we'll both agree that Fresno State, they're a quality opponent. But I would argue that they definitely do not belong in the top 25. And that's what the committee did. They gamingly put Fresno State in the top 25 to strengthen Alabama's chance to get in, because they know Fresno State's one of the top three games that Alabama played this season. Top three. That's one of their top three victories. So again, it's kind of some gaming here. Yes, the committee is always going to look for a way to put Alabama in because Alabama is such a draw. The same way 2 years ago, Nebraska had a losing record, and they gave them a bowl game with a losing record, and they ended up winning the bowl game. But it's because their fans travel. So it was a political business move to put Alabama in um, more so than Ohio State. Oklahoma is a quality loss. That's fine. Oklahoma is a quality loss. Okay? It doesn't matter. Yeah. At the beginning of the season. Quality. Well, but Kevin, what we've agreed on in the past, that argument, but the argument that Alabama's schedule is fine is literally arguing against everything we've agreed on the past 2 years. Literally, what it has done, it is awarding them for putting in Mercer, for putting in, you know, so who do you think is better? Mississippi State? You think who's better, Mississippi State or Michigan State? I mean, you said enough just saying that. I mean, who's better? Who's better, Ole Miss or Iowa? Alabama's lost to this. This is the first year. Hold on. In the last 3 years, Alabama has lost to Ole Miss twice. Twice. Oh, well, nonetheless. Okay. And Penn State is even up into the last few weeks. I mean, we'd have to say that Penn State's a better. They were a more deserving team in a lot of ways than maybe Wisconsin was to be either in the Rose Bowl or in the playoff. As far as a quality of team that we're looking at, we would say definitely Penn State was more. I mean, a lot of people could make arguments that Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. That's better in some regards than what you have with Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia. Now, Auburn did something crazy. Hold on, they did something. Okay, so because we can't use here's why I don't tend to use. Oh, you got smeared by that team. Okay, Georgia went in and they got smeared by Auburn at Auburn. Played on a neutral field. Not really. It was Atlanta. Smeared them there. And then Alabama got manhandled by Mississippi State and then lost miserably. Got manhandled, beat by more than 2 touchdowns by Auburn. So Auburn's obviously legit. Alabama has struggled. They're a get-by team. They're a get-the-win team. Because at the end of the day, the wins count the same. Alabama, they're get-by. Alabama. Florida State is not a good team. They literally had to reschedule a Conference USA team who wasn't even competitive in the Conference USA this year to be bowl eligible. I think people are putting too much on 2 losses. Let me put it this way: if 2 losses were such a big deal, let me just say that if 2 losses were such a big deal, then look at Auburn. They're still ranked 7th. They're ahead of USC, Penn State, Miami. Are more than 1 loss? Is it that big of a deal? I mean, if losses are that big of a deal, then why isn't USC? Why isn't UCF? Why isn't UCF in the Final Four? Why are they on a New Year's Day game against Auburn? If losses are so valuable, then why aren't they consistent? Florida State, or Central Florida, played Memphis, top 25 team, blew them out. Played South Florida, top 25 team, beat them for a championship. They won to go to the championship. Then they beat Memphis again, another top 25 team. They beat them again. So how are we scoring this? No. I'm just saying how. It's not weighed the same. That's what I'm. No, I'm not arguing against. I'm just saying if losses are so valuable, then why is it that they're not scoring losses the same way as a tiebreaker? Come on, Kevin. So why are we debating? Why are we debating Ohio State? Why are we debating Ohio State and Alabama? And why aren't we debating Miami or Wisconsin? What I mean, why weren't we debating those? I mean, there's two loss Miami, and they've looked great in all but two games. Wisconsin has one loss. One loss. I mean, couldn't you argue that the one loss Wisconsin team may have a more of a? I mean, if losses are so valuable, yeah, they did lose to Ohio State, but that's a high quality loss. Maybe they should be above Ohio State. Maybe they should be 5. I mean, if the loss is so valuable, I mean, what I'm saying is the way that the committee looks at these things, and for the most part this season, the top 4, I tend to agree with. But the way when we're getting into this last part, and again, it's not just for a sake to make an argument for Ohio State. What they've done this year is they said, hey, listen, I know Ohio State, the other year we made an exception for you, and you poo-pooed the bed because we wanted to make sure we had a Big Ten team in. And they did. The committee said they looked like the better overall team. You know, they thought they were the better overall team. And that's just it. And that was the thing. But the thing is, Ohio State, again, with 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 Ohio State, they've had a tougher schedule this season. So yes, they have 2 losses. They have 2 losses. It's not subjective. No, I'm calling Florida State for what they are. So did Georgia, and they're in the Georgia lost their starting quarterback. They're running with a freshman, and they're favored right now to win the national title. Clemson lost their starting quarterback for what? For what? 2, 3 months? For a month? And they're still only 1 loss. Clemson. They lost Bryant for what? 3 games? It was a long. I think it was a week and a bye, so it was 2 weeks. Ohio State won a national title with their 3rd string quarterback. You can't say, oh, we lost our starter. Don't go there with that. What is it? What's the point? That Mercer's a better team than Army? Like, that's a better schedule? Ohio State, the whole Big Ten has a rule. You have to schedule FBS schools, and still the SEC is still the only SEC and ACC are the only conference eight conference games, and they're directional schools. So at what point in time? Here's my ultimate point. I do. And you know what? My argument that Ohio State should be in over Alabama is simply for the fact that for what I've argued for years, that we need to get these directional schools off the schedule. They need to get to 9 conference games. Again, you've argued the same thing, but I think that allowing the schedule like this, no, it's not. Here's why. Because the only way it changes is they get punished. So if Alabama is punished for that BS that we've wanted changed forever, again, right here, this says, you know what? You want to get in? Skate by. You have a tough conference. Skate by. You know, undefeated. Maybe you lose one game. You're Alabama. So you beat some good teams, right? You beat three. You have 3 quality wins on your 13-game schedule. 3 quality wins. Okay, that's good. Are we buying heavy stock in preseason rankings all of a sudden? I didn't. I missed the opening bell on that one. I did. I'm sorry. I didn't see. I'm well. Here's the thing: is I'm a sell on preseason rankings. It's bull. I don't care about it. I mean, the Vols were like preseason number 3 last year. All right. I was in Lincoln. They look good. They look good the year before. They look good the year before. They had a solid scouting class, and everybody had every reason to believe that regardless who their quarterback was, they would be able to be competitive. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So whether I thought that they were at that point in time, see, I thought Nebraska was going to have a winning season too, but that definitely didn't happen. You know, okay. Same way Michigan did last year. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you there. And also, like for example, so let's just instead of Mercer, the second last game, I'm not sure Alabama beats Missouri the way Missouri was rolling at the end of the season, or even South Carolina. So you schedule one more in-conference game. I'm not sure that they get away from either of those teams, especially Missouri. Yeah, yeah, Yeah. Uh, okay. And I agree. I agree on that. That I thought from the beginning it should have been 6, not 4. I don't think we should go to 8. I think eight's too many. I think eight's rewarding more when we're talking about to get by teams. I mean, if we're arguing should Ohio State or Alabama be at 4, that's a quality argument. But I don't want to be arguing who's 8 or 7. I can 6 is fine. But here's the thing. Just to go back to the 4, just hitting on the 4 right now. When just to hit kind of what you were saying before, the committee tells us things. Unfortunately, the committee doesn't tell us the same thing. They change their mind. Like year one, for example, what was important was the conference championships and the 13 data points. That's the whole reason Baylor or TCU didn't get in. That's simply because they didn't meet the 13 data points and they didn't have a conference champion. Year two, they said head-to-head matchups were important and conference championship. So sorry, Ohio State, you just lose out. You got that loss. Sorry, kind of like what probably should have happened to Alabama this year. That was essentially Ohio State that year should have been in, but they weren't because they didn't win the conference champion. Then year three, okay, it's your resume and quality wins, those good wins. Sorry, Penn State, you didn't get in. You're going to go play probably one of the best college football games I've seen in a long time. Outside, again, I think that was a really good game between UCF and USF. So Penn State, you didn't get in. Ohio State did, non-conference. So it's funny how it didn't work out for the year before. Then they made up for that, and then now this year, just because we're looking at Ohio State and SoCal, which are really the two teams you would argue to be in at that 4 spot because they're conference champions. They have 2 losses. Again, their 2 losses are to teams that they're quality opponents. Iowa isn't having a great season, but we can say that Iowa is a quality play. They're a quality team to play against, and nobody's going to argue that. Iowa always plays very good at home, and they did the same thing last year to Michigan. So we can't say that Iowa's a crap team. So we can't run them through the washers on the loss to Iowa. Iowa. So we're saying just because of that, sorry Ohio State, sorry USC, you're really not in the consideration. We just think Alabama's a better team. So what is it? The committee changes its mind every year, and it's not that the conference that they're evolving every year with some similar problems each year. We're just doing what they feel politically, or maybe the ratings would be the best. That's why I said it was such a gangster move for them to put Fresno State in the top 25. It is different because Ohio State had 9 conference games and they all Division One, real Division One schools they played. They didn't play these directional schools in the South, and they played 9 conference games. They lost 1 game to Penn State, who was the conference champion. And I don't. Who? What do you mean? Yeah. No. What? What do you mean that? No, it isn't. No, it isn't because year two, they said head to head. So they're looking at head to head matchups and championships. It's always been up until last year. Conference championships matter more than anything. They got away with the 13 data points, probably because it's a bit confusing for most people. And then they said head to head. How do these head to heads match up? Which is really looking at the strength of the schedule in a sense. But then they said instead of head to head, calling it head to head, let's look at resume, the actual resume. So the quality of their schedule. So Penn State didn't make it in, but Ohio State did. Okay, and again, I don't. Again, last year I didn't. I think we agreed unanimously. Ohio State was a better team. We thought overall. Obviously, once they got in, it didn't seem to be that way. Not much differently, but against Clemson. But still, we thought that for the most part. And again, yeah, I'm saying you're saying this year. How is that different from Ohio State last year? Well, the difference is, and again, it goes back to the resume. It goes back to the schedule. Who are you scheduling? If you're only scheduling FBS schools and you're scheduling 9 conference opponents that's guaranteed 9 out of 10 of your opponents Power 5 teams. And again, they added 10 because they had Oklahoma last year. They went to Norman and beat the Sooners in Norman. So they had that was a huge win at the beginning of the season, huge risk. So they're saying you took a huge risk, and we want to reward those because you should be playing top quality opponents each and every week instead of skating by on directional schools. That's what the resume, that's what they're talking about, resume, head to head, good wins. How do you got good wins? Because you have a good schedule. But what they're saying this year is your resume, the schedule you have, it doesn't matter so much this year. It doesn't because you can get by with 8 conference games, one less than the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the Big 10. You can get by with it because you're in the South. You can get by with it, and then you can put directional schools on there. Essentially, I mean, if you're scheduling FAMU, and again, I know they didn't, but if you're scheduling FAMU and it's not for a band, it's not for the drumline face-off, then you should be ashamed of yourself if you're a Power 5 school. You should be. That crap shouldn't be on the schedule. Yeah. No, no. USC should be rewarded for that. Ohio State was in better position because they won their, they were seemed to be in better position for it. What I'm more so saying is Alabama should be punished. Not that the others should be rewarded so much, that Alabama should be punished. Because the thing is, if you let a child just continue to do it and do it and do it and do it, and you don't give them repercussions, you're not bringing it up to them, they're not getting time out, they're not getting grounded, there's no repercussions for their actions, the actions will not change. And what the committee said this year is, it does not matter how many conference games you play. It does not matter the difficulty of the schedule that you play. We don't care if it's even FBS, FCS, we don't care. You can bring in your local high school and essentially have a scrimmage game with them. As long as it's during the regular season, we'll count it. If you don't punish them, and we both think that Alabama is this is the weakest Alabama team that they probably had in probably since 2007, probably 2007. I am. Absolutely. No, I give them credit for scheduling it. It's just that they're not what they thought they were. Kevin, if you go to a restaurant and you buy a sandwich and somebody says, this is the best damn sandwich you'll ever have, and you have it and it tastes like a dog turd, are you going to give it a 5-star review and say, this is a great sandwich? No. You're going to say it tastes like a dog turd. The Seminoles are a dog turd. A dog turd sandwich, to be more specific. Okay. And before I was married, I had a shot with J-Lo, but I'm married now, so that's off the table. I could be a backup dancer. She's into that thing. I think is I'm fine. I'm gonna watch it and I'll appreciate it exactly the way that I do appreciate it exactly the way it is. I just think from a philosophical standpoint that if the committee does not step up and put up hands and say, listen, stop scheduling bullshit teams. You can turn around. How can they say, you know what? You have to have a conference championship. If you don't have one, good luck. But they can say, you know what? If you want to schedule, BS State and the Southern Hoagie Flugies, you're fine. You can do it. That's great. We're all on board. Your local high school, if during the season you want to sign them up and play a scrimmage, we'll go ahead and count that. That's good with us. As long as it's a game. That's fine. I mean, literally a game, not a competitive game. It's just you have a clock and someone's keeping score. We're good with that. That's what I'm saying. If they don't stand up and say, this is how we're getting that message across, you got edged out by Ohio State with one more loss and a bad looking loss to Iowa. We're going to get them a nod. Or even better, how about SC? I mean, they have 2 good losses. Why not? Let's put SC in 4 and say, hey, Ohio State, you got blown out. You're done. Alabama, you're scheduling bullshit half the season. So let's schedule better teams. Be better. That's the only way. That's the only way Ohio State would play Alabama, and that's the other bullshit side of it. I'm not even going to get into. Schedule some home and homes. God, I'm sick. I'm sick of Alabama. I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer that in just a second. I'm sick and tired of Mangina, Alabama. Their new name is Mangina. They tuck and duck. That's what it is. They tuck and duck. They're Mangina. That's their new nickname, Alabama Manginas. That's what it is. Tuck and duck. Schedule some real teams. If you're going to schedule some real teams, let's do home and home. Right now, if it's right now, I think it would be a fun game to watch. It would be close and competitive, but I would edge Alabama. And here's why. Because, like I said before, they're not a team that's a great team that's going to beat teams. They're just a finding way to get by. They're a get-by team. And they're really good at getting by. And they find ways to do that. Alabama wins 3 out of 5 games on a neutral field against Ohio State this year. With the bus. Driving the bus. Yeah, and that's what Vegas liked. Thank you. They sided with Vegas. Can, as a as a professional gambler, can you admit that they sought Vegas's advice on this? Vegas was like, go with Alabama, better bet. What? No. The best political move is to put in Alabama. You have 3 teams. You literally have 3 teams that you really can't argue. They're in. The top 3 teams, nobody's arguing about. No, if you put Ohio State, it's not political. It's very simple. Oh, they won a conference championship. Alabama didn't. They scheduled 9 conference games in all FBS schools. Alabama didn't. It seems pretty straightforward to me. No, I'm not. My argument is have a real schedule. Schedule home and homes out of conference. 9 conference games. But before we do, let me. I want to get James's take. I'm bringing James for just 1 second. He's one of our lead college football contributors, as well as the editor for the boxing section uh, of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports, and he is the host for the Boxing Source radio show. James, can you bring some sense to this? Can you bring some sense to this committee? Are you sure They lost big to Iowa. All right, well, we're going to move on to the coaching carousel. It's been pretty wild. And the coaching carousel this year has not been limited to coaches. Athletic directors have got in on the action as well, keeping things interesting there. Jeff Long, no relation that I know of, in Arkansas was fired, let go. He was there since 2008. John Curry was let go at the University of Tennessee. He had been there since April. um, and then Nebraska fired their athletic director, clearly to go in the direction that they're in right now, because that was the whole reason they fired him. Because, and let me explain that. This is kind of my segue into the Scott Frost at Nebraska. 3 years ago, the people that have made this wave happen, that boosters, ex-Husker players, alumni, wanted, and they considered Scott Frost. Sean Eichhorst, then athletic director of Nebraska, did not even make a phone call, did not consider him at all. Although that was one of the top considerations people that paid the bills wanted. He brought in Mike Riley. They pulled the plug early on Mike Riley, and they let Eichhorst go because, they said, hey, we pay the bills. It's not working. And again, nothing against Mike Riley. I think Mike Riley is a decent coach. I didn't get the hire. I tried to work with it at Nebraska and wrap my mind around it. And yeah, I could say there was times that, SC was interested in him and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And they didn't need to drag it on any longer. Brought in Scott Frost. I'm happy Scott Frost did stop at Central Florida. I was of the opinion that, yeah, I'd like to see him a couple years somewhere else. He was a couple years somewhere else. It worked. So the natural route was to bring him on. That process started in the middle of the season. He made his final decision, yes, literally within the last few days before the AAC Conference Championship. The contract was pretty much prepared. It was all ready by beginning of November. 7 years, $35 million. So that wasn't a question. The offer was there. He didn't want to entertain it because he didn't want distractions. So he waited till after. And I think this was the best scenario and direction to go. Now, let me be critical real quick. I've had conversations with several members of the outgoing staff, particularly ones that I thought might be holdovers, like Coach Dub, Keith Williams, one of the top wide receiver coaches in football, let alone college football, aka Dr. Routes, wonderful coach. As of yesterday, hasn't even gotten a phone call from what I understand. He's a killer recruiter and a killer coach. I don't understand how you don't hold this guy over. He still has 2 years existing on his contract. Keep that. And it doesn't seem like there's much going on in the holdover department. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But other than that, that's my one criticism, Coach Dub. That's it. It's my one criticism of people that you hold over. Keep him. Everybody else is kind of expendable. But I think, again, when the rumors come up, oh, Florida State, maybe he will change his. No, that's not changing. Oh, Oregon, no, it's not going to change. We'll offer him more money. See, that's the thing is, when Florida made their offer, the Florida offer was higher than what Nebraska offered. It was higher. He turned it down. Oregon called. He said, I'm not available. Florida State, the rumors was they were interested. I was never understood that he got an official call from them. But the word was, he is unavailable. Not like Willie Taggart unavailable, like literally. I'm not taking calls right now. So that whole situation, it really wasn't a rumor, and it wasn't a question of if it was going to happen. It's just, when are we making it official? That's the whole situation there. Bill Mose, I think, is a quality guy. We'll see how he works out as athletic director. His hire is Scott Frost. He's going to get credit for it. It's what was going to happen anyways. So we'll have to judge him on everything else around it too. So it kind of in that direction. I think that's kind of the smoothest sort of we knew what was happening situation in the country. The exact opposite of that was Tennessee. And it still is. And my advice, and again, Fulmer, again, from what I've told from my sources there, is he's hired essentially, his title is athletic director, and he will be the athletic director for the foreseeable future. But for really all intents and purposes, he's the interim athletic director. On a search for athletic directors, he's not really on the scale of which athletic directors they want to get to pull in. He's in there more so as a favor to boosters, someone that's linked to the university that they trust. I mean, and he was obviously he has some clout there as a coach. He did some good things. So that's more so why he's in place. My sources say. So is he athletic? Yeah. Yeah. That's just another example of the crazy that is Tennessee fans. And again, I jumped Tennessee fans and saying that what they did, and let me clarify something. You being crazy and protesting and doing these things to defame a man and stacking something against him that is literally slander, writing stuff that's libel, And defaming this man, all because you don't want him as your head coach, is disgusting. It's your right to free speech, but it's the way you go about it. You know, you can let people know you're pissed off without throwing shit. Leave throwing shit for the monkeys in the zoo. That's their thing. You don't need to, as college football fans, do that. Chill out. You can say, get him out, fire him, we don't want it. Burning couches, spray paint obscenities, profanities, you know, literally fabricating aspects of his character is just disgusting. And that, Tennessee fans, while you're in the situation you're in, you were not a top tier program before, you're still not now, and it's even worse. So my advice to Tennessee, their boosters, is you're gonna have to take this L. Hire somebody, kind of like Ole Miss did. Hire somebody that is gonna appreciate having a head coaching position at a Power 5 school rather than trying to find the biggest name you can. Because you all look like fools thinking John Gruden was going to come. And then when he's not coming, now it's kind of a race, a rat race you thought you were in. Kelly's not coming. You got somebody that was a quality head coach. For Tennessee, you know, Shiano's a good hire for them. That's a good hire for them. And I commented that. I think that as of yet, they may have had the best hire. I didn't like Dan Mullen. I know we argued a little bit about that last week. Dan Mullen, I don't know. I think that's more of a lateral move. I don't think he did so many great things at Mississippi State. And on top of that, I don't see, if you're saying that I want somebody that's a proven winner that can contend for national championships, and somebody that's a proven putting up lots of points on offense and lots of yards and offensive mind, like, that's not him. That's not that guy. So I think Florida kind of settled, right, for their third option because they wanted Kelly, wanted Frost, they got Dan Mullen. You know, they had to settle. Florida State fans, you guys are lucky you got Taggart because you guys were getting kind of. We'll get into Florida State because I got something to say about Florida State fans too. But yeah, go. Mississippi State was a consistent contender. Contending in the Egg Bowl. You know what? I agree with you. You know what dawned on me? I agree with you. Dan Mullen was a great head coach for Mississippi State. He was. I agree with it. He is. He's a great fit for Mississippi State. I'll get into my theory on Lane Kiffin. And I got breaking news as far as the Arkansas coach. Just, well, I'll let you finish. Yep. Chad Morris. Well, the big issue that I see is with the recruiting, and again, that's always been the problem with Nebraska. You know, they say you go out 50, you go out 100, you go out 250 miles, and what do you have within that area? And the problem is Nebraska doesn't have the same kind of availability in that area. But so they are forced to have to recruit nationally. But the other thing that ever since Frank Solich left, uh, the the commitment to in-state recruits. Again, it's not just finding the best kids from Nebraska and just check them off as yep, got them. Because that's kind of the way in the late '80s, early '90s. If you were born in Nebraska, the only team that you wanted to play for at all was Nebraska, and you would rather walk on to Nebraska and pay for your tuition than get a scholarship, maybe at a Minnesota or another school. Maybe you'd rather walk on in Nebraska, and that's the thing. They've went away from that. They haven't been able to instill that confidence in the Husker brand. The Husker brand is what's been tarnished. The Husker brand is what helped the Sea of Red, and that tough game to play in Lincoln. You know, the brands got tarnished. The swag went away. They had a swag. You knew that they weren't going to do anything that was fancy. They were just going to come in. They're going to beat the shit out of you for 4 quarters. Exactly what Alabama does right now. You know, they're going to kick the crap out of you for 4 quarters, and they're going to win the game. Some of it's going to be ugly. Some of them it's going to be big victories. Again, it's a lot like Alabama. Again, uh, yeah. Yeah, 8 months. Tennessee. Um, you no, it's no. They hired no. UCF hired their head coach today. They uh, they got their guy already. They hired Josh Heupel. I do, I do. This is something that I was been kind of had kind of been. I heard rumors of it, and I was like, really? And then I kind of it makes perfect sense. And Jimbo Fisher basically said it in his press conference. It was a no brainer. And the thing is, with a lot of people, FSU is a top job. It's a destination job. I agree. It is for most people. But again, Jimbo Fisher was again the guy that was the heir apparent after Bobby Bowden. That kind of edged Bobby Bowden out to get him in coaching, and ended up paying off. But the thing is, they still were kind of, despite the recruiting, despite the national championship, despite the winning seasons, he he still wasn't getting full support there in a lot of different ways. And although they were paying good, really good, he has probably the best contract. I mean, he had the only fully guaranteed contract for a college head coach. Like literally, if Florida State fired him for any reason, really, uh, they would have to pay him his full contract. Whereas if he leaves, which he did, the buyout was the remainder of the contracts, the sum of the 2 and 3 year contracts that were left of his assistants, who they didn't retain. So if he only takes one assistant with him, I mean, we could be talking about a million, or 750,000 or half a million. If he only took one coach. So I'm saying, obviously, he took a lot of his staff with him. So that's kind of where he had the favorite. Yes, largely the administration. And kind of it seemed like the administration felt like, and from what I gathered, treated him, and I guess in the eyes of who I talked to, like they were above him, not just because they literally were the ones that would hire him, but and hire the athletic director, but because that's the way they made it perceived. You're going to get what you get. You're a college coach. You're a football coach. You just realize you're a football coach, and um, and it's just some of the support. Like he wasn't getting like the facilities. He wanted to update. He wanted to upgrade. Again, it's an arms race. When you have Alabama continually improving. Look, I mean, what they even what they put in at Clemson. I mean, again, I mean you couldn't have said it better earlier in the show. I mean, FSU has really lost that swag, like that momentum to Clemson, because Clemson has new facilities, all new facilities, new dorms. I mean, for God's sakes, to get to the top floor. Yeah. Yeah. And his assistants all got raises, by the way, this last time around. Yeah. I think after Nebraska, they're the next highest on sellouts, by the way. I think they're the next highest for sellout crowds. Mm-hmm.
more or less. He was fired. He's like the only guy that gets fired from every job mid-season. Like, yeah. That's why they. That's why Houston shot him down. That's why the Board of Regents there.
because they shut him down because they're like there is no I mean there's no way he's faithful at all. There's not going to be any loyalty there. Whoever's going to pay him more money, he's going to be gone. And they were worried because they lost Tom Herman very easily. Todd Herman, rather, very Tom Herman, Texas, and they didn't get much compensation for it. And they were so worried about that, and they were worried that they didn't think that he was going to agree to really, where they would be in a situation where uh, he wouldn't be able to get bought, and that was kind of it. That was kind of the thing. And they cured with the situation, so it didn't materialize. Where FAU stepped in. But he did some. Yes. Yeah. No, that's down young because I'm getting closer to that than 20. So yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, they were. And by the way, I think he, I think that SC, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a weird guy, by the way. That's the most thing I hear about him. From players, from scouts, from other coaches, just random people. Like he's a weird guy. And the thing is like he's an outside the box guy. You know, it must be a Nebraska thing. It must be. Yeah. Do you do you know what they called? Do you know what they called the Tampa two before Monty Kiffin? Called the Tampa two. before people started calling it the Tampa 2. It's literally what Nebraska ran in the 70s. That's essentially what it was. So he just took the 4-3 nickel that they ran primarily at Nebraska and made it better, essentially. Yeah, in Rise, Booger McClellan. It didn't probably that probably weighed nothing on that at all. Everybody, I think the memes are even better. Like Kim Jong Un turned down the. Have you seen those? The memes are hilarious. Hilarious. I know that Florida State jumped on Willie Taggart. I thought Venomous was going to end up going to Florida State, but I think that just says how much Florida State's out of tune. I don't know. I think he's probably one of the top candidates out there that it's worth hanging out for it, you know. And it's like Oregon's like the open job right now. So that's it. It's basically just Oregon now. It's down to Oregon. You know, everybody else has basically hired somebody, which might mean he stays. I don't know. Uh, they, like you said, his first priority was facilities, paying his assistants. You know, you pay your assistants well when you have 2 offensive coordinators. So, yeah. And just since we're on Lane Kiffin again, and I just wanted to hit on this because people made it sound like Lane Kiffin has been terrible. Like if you look at what he did at Tennessee, he turned that around pretty quickly, and they were very successful the 1 year he was there. 7-6 from crap to 7-6. Then he goes to USC with sanctions and goes 10-4, 6-3. Now the sanctions obviously hurt more his second year there because you have less scholarships. So you have younger guys and less scholarships. It's never good. That means you have less fuel in the tank than everybody else. They can go further. That's where people don't understand. Now that now that we're looking at teams getting sanctioned, was it Ole Miss? That they're going to receive losing 13 scholarships. They self-imposed 11. They're getting 13. It was 1 year, and now it's 2-year bowl ban. So hiring, Matt Luke as the full-time coach is a no-brainer because you have 2 years of just irrelevancy that you're going to be going into, and it's such an uphill climb. If you like him and you think he's decent, you need to do that. That's essentially what Tennessee has painted the corner they painted themselves into. They've essentially, because of their fan reaction and craziness, have created sanction type situations for themselves, and essentially there's no security in the job there, and the fans will be at a whim to essentially to determine what happens. I mean, the Browns owner was the guy that pulled the plug on getting rid of John Curry because Curry backed out of Schiano. Obviously, being in Cleveland and seeing him at Ohio State, him coaching the Bucks and being like that's essentially like a triangle there that has existed for a while, and that was kind of like something big money booster. Ex-NFL guy, he turned Rutgers around. The whole reason Rutgers is essentially in a Power 5 conference is because of where Schiano was able to get him as a coach. So whether you like the guy or not, I mean, he was a quality hire. But your craziness screwed it up. So John Curry, because he didn't know how to deal with crazy, he's out. And they found a guy that's a Tennessee guy. Again, fans, you can tweet at me angrily all you want. He is your interim athletic director. He is. Whether the official title says interim or not, he is, for all intents and purposes, the interim athletic director. And he'll move on to something else once stuff settles. Yeah. Yeah, he'll say he'll retire for health reasons or something like that. And just to remind people, Tom Osborne was an interim director for like 2.5 years at Nebraska before they hired Sean Eichorst and changed the course stuff. But he was an interim for like 2.5 years. So interim doesn't mean for the next couple months. Like this last time around, after they fired Eichorst, they did have an interim athletic director, and he was there for for a week, and then they hired Bill Moss. Interim can be short, and it could be long for the future. You're here until we find somebody else. Tennessee. I'd say no, I don't see that. So it doesn't. Yeah, absolutely. I know because from what I heard, in the Bahamas, he looked pretty good. He fit to compete again.
Mm-hmm. Is this now? You say he's back at his roaring. What do you think? would cause him to fall short of getting a major. Because if he's driving it straighter than he has in over a decade, if he's playing playing with strength, which is a lot of what he's missed in the last decade, and his short game looks good. What stops him from winning? Why wouldn't he be able to make history with those by winning those majors? Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's the thing is, yeah, that's the one thing I've always said that Tiger Woods and Mike Tyson had in common. Like, people were legitimately intimidated, whether they could see the scoreboard or not, you know. All right, appreciate it. Kevin Crest, ladies and gentlemen. So, kind of bouncing off that. Again, the IOC put golf into the Olympics. So professional golfers can play in the Olympics. Professional boxers can also compete in the Olympics. I'm not going to say that Tiger Woods may have an interest in competing for the United States in the Summer Games, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, Qatar is pretty rough. I don't know. It's like 140 degrees in the shade or something. I don't know if he does that, but that's probably the one thing on his trophy shelf that he could say that he hasn't, he doesn't have, and he chose to go over actually to Europe to start playing and stuff in the Bahamas and start playing and stuff before he really stepped on the foot and on the course competitively in the main United States. So I think that's a great direction he's decided to go in. And he's really, he likes playing in the Ryder too. So that's something, another thing he's going to aim for. Tiger Woods isn't going to come out. He's never been the guy that says, I'm trying to win these Masters. I'm trying to win these Masters. Tiger Woods is trying to win every shot he takes. He is great because of his level of competitiveness and his skill and the way he goes about it. Now, it seems like he's healthy, and more so his mind is straight, mentally healthy. He seems comfortable in his skin again. That's what's dangerous, you know. When you're walking out there and going to tee off, and the guy next to you is in some ways more interested in getting your autograph, you know, than lining up his tee shot, it says something, you know. So yes, again, this could be the prelude to something very major and very historic. But like I said at the beginning of the show, it's not like Tiger is back isn't a story that's already been written. I mean, the article I looked at, Sports Illustrated, what year was that? Was it 2013? I think it was 2013. Sitting right over here. No, you don't have to go. But, you know, it's not like it's a story that hasn't been written. That's what I'm saying. Miami, the U is back. It's not like a story that hasn't been written. A lot of times, what society has wanted and what made them excited it is something different than is reality. You know? This is why, again, not just to go back to Nebraska because I'm from there, not because, you know, because of what's went on lately, but just to kind of this is why Scott Frost returning to Nebraska was so important. You know, he is the best. Again, I've talked to former Huskers. You know, I mean, this is why Bo Pelini was doing well. It's where he was considered that they're in a position where they might contend for a national title. Again, partway through the season. There's a quarterback in 2 different seasons that mentioned in Heisman running. A defense that just looks phenomenal. And I have alumni and former players, booster, people tell me it's going to be a Nebraska guy. It's going to come back and lead Nebraska to a national championship. And there's going to be somebody that leads Nebraska to that, but it won't be Bo Pelini. When we're talking about a guy that has won less than 9 games in a season. So in a lot of ways, the deck had kind of been stacked against Bo Pelini, A bad athletic director hire was kind of what maybe delayed it. But I'm a strong believer in everything happens for a reason. And when I said I want to see Scott Frost head coach somewhere else before he goes to Nebraska, I didn't say that because I doubted his ability to coach or play call or recruit. It's that, there's some things in your life professionally you kind of want to work out before you're ultimately up for that opportunity you dreamed of. And again, I'll go back to say this. Every kid in Nebraska wanted to play for the Huskers. Would want to coach for the Huskers. Would want to work for the Huskers. It was that was it. The brand was that strong. It's wavered since then. Bill Callahan had a huge play in that. Killed the culture. And it's been coach after that trying to do some sort of a repair job to it. It's just ultimately it's never come about. Now, with Frost, they see it. This is the most hopeful that I have seen fans, boosters, former players, administrators. This is the most hopeful I've seen them. Any fan base or any team or organization or program in a long time. That is a tremendous amount of pressure. 7 years was good. Saying, hey, you'll have some time. And Scott said in his opening presser, we're not going to win all these games. You need to get to the grips that we're going to lose football games. You need to be okay with it. We're going to lose football games. It's just a fact. It will happen. Okay? But we're going to right the ship. It's going to get worse. Be patient. He's kind of prepared people for that. I think people are more so willing to allow that. So when you get a coach that you want, like I told Michigan fans, pump your brakes. You got Jim Harbaugh. He's a great coach. Awesome recruiter. Be patient. 3 seasons, be patient with him. He's the guy that you ultimately always would want. He was your A-list celebrity coach that would be next to impossible to get, that you want to come back to his own modern coach there. He is that. You got him. Now just be patient. It'll come about. It'll come about. Tiger's going to be interesting. But I want to get to IOC. Okay. The International Olympic Committee, they announced today that after Oswald investigations into the anti-doping schemes of Russia, they've found that over 1,000 Russian athletes were involved in this anti-doping scheme, that they were going to ban. They're banning Russia from Olympic competition for the winter, for 18 games, and what I've understood for up to 3 years, which again that makes it very tough to qualify for games if you only have a year to prepare for it. However, they will allow Russian athletes to compete if they can prove that they're clean, and they would essentially be under the Olympic flag, not Russia. Like an independent, they'd be an independent athlete that would qualify for the games. They would allow that. Now, there are various members of their committee and the administrative portions for Olympics and for trust in anti-doping that have received lifetime ban. On top of that, they have been ordered by the IOC to pay $15 million to pay for the investigation and to set up a new program to help catch and fight against anti-doping schemes. They're not going to help put it together. They just want them to foot the bill for it. That's what the fine is going to go for. So this is the largest, most significant penalty, fines, and punishment that the IOC has ever levied against a country, competing country for the Olympics. So the vacating medals, the chairman said they're vacating those medals, and they are going to do their best to do medal ceremonies for all those previous games that Russian athletes won that were cheating, and whoever was the next person up, they were going to adjust the medal count for gold, silvers, bronze, in accordance to the next person up. So there's people that didn't medal, now medal. There may be a couple people, because there's times where Russia won 2 of the 3 medals. So 2 new people will have medals in the Olympics that did not previously have them. This is kind of the scenario and stuff that's coming up. So it's not only are they vacating the wins, but they're making sure the correct people are now getting credit for said wins, said play in competition. Now I always thought that seems actually a lot more fair sometimes than what I see with the NCAA, because I always thought it was kind of crap to vacate wins from a team but not the losses. You can, remove awards that players have won, but the next guy up really doesn't get it. So they're really like Reggie Bush, there really was no Heisman winner that year. The runner-up didn't get a trophy, didn't do a ceremony for him. Reggie just had to give his back. I think the runner-up was actually the quarterback. Matt. Matt. Let's call him Matt. Liner. Not Liner. I think he was the runner-up for Heisman. The year Reggie Bush won. And Reggie Bush was the runner-up the year Matt Liner won. So it would have been the third runner-up in both years that would end up having to give it back, essentially. Matt Liner didn't have to give his back, by the way. Just Reggie Bush. So, and it's again, you vacated the wins that the quarterback got, the team got, all because of a running back. I mean again, the stuff, it just really, the punishment didn't really make tons of sense to me in the get-go. So, just a little update. We were working on doing Skype, but for whatever reason, it just isn't working properly. So we're gonna do the last 30 minutes or so, last 30 minutes of overtime in the show on Facebook Live. So if you're listening live on Spreaker, which I know a good amount of you still do live on Spreaker, where am I at doing that? You will be able to, you can go live to, it's not working either. Okay, so never mind. We will not do Facebook Live tonight then. Fine. All right, where are we at here? Yeah, okay. The NFL. So here's the thing about the NFL, and I know some of you who are listening may not understand why I'm saying what I'm saying, may not get the basis of it, and it may just not jive with you. Football has a culture to it that is, for the most part, a bit different than all other major sports. It's the most violent sport. It's also probably one of the most difficult sports to play. Soccer is different because it's continual. Basketball is continual, whereas football is stop and go, constantly stop and go. And the strategy, you're able to sit back and decipher and digest what's going on in a much different way than you can with any other sport. Yes. When you take two objects or life forms and you run them into each other, something is eventually going to break or give. That's a fact. A lot of guys in the NFL right now, probably almost all of them, are there because they get paid for it, and it's what they want to do. Because once you get your first paycheck, your first league paycheck, I mean, at that point, you've made enough money to where if you can live very modestly. It's a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, fully guaranteed as a rookie. You can live pretty modestly, as long as you save and invest right, and you're not going all out, so you could live pretty well at that point. You don't have to go out and find some high-paying job to live. You just have to make sure the lifestyle that you're going to live is modest, and you don't overspend. You're basically, you essentially what most people would have is an annuity when they're old. And so you take all of your earnings and you annuitize it over the course of your life. You take all that contract money, your rookie contract money, and you annuitize it for your life. You live like you make $15 an hour. Your money's going to last a lot longer, and you can make some more money in the process. Make some investments and stuff. So, making it to the league, you get life-changing money. It's important. So yeah, there's a financial gain to do this. Some guys like the violent nature to it. They enjoy it. They want to go out there and hit somebody. What has happened in the past with people being injured is unfortunate. Never want to see someone injured. We've seen situations where it's the person that's being blocked or tackled that's injured, and we've seen the person that's doing the blocking or doing the tackling that gets hurt. I think the Steelers game basically had both. Very physical game. 2 years ago in the playoffs, it was essentially the same game. Same kind of physicality. That's just kind of how it happens in that division. That's the mentality of those teams. Very physical play. Is it cheap? Is it dirty? Or is it just hard-nosed, grindstone, very physical, chippy? If you play like you have an axe to grind, it's going to look generally in what you do like you have an axe to grind. People tend to not be so in favor of those with a vendetta unless you're actively rooting for the one that has the vendetta, the score. A lot of times we can see it is tough in the moment to manipulate your bodies in a way to not lead with your head, you lead with the shoulder, you aim for the chest, but you get the chin strap. It can be tough at times to carry out block or tackle in a manner that's nowadays legal. I don't think the block on Burfict was illegal. That was a quality football play. I don't think Burfict was a defenseless player because he was right there in the vicinity to make the tackle. It was just a good quality hard-hitting block that put Burfict on his rear and essentially put him in a situation that he's put other people in so many times. Don't think it was a cheap shot. That's one particular I wanted to talk about. Football is going to be violent. It's inherently, it's a car wreck. It really is. Anybody that's ever had the opportunity, and I've had the opportunity, to be on the sidelines for an NFL game, it's so much different. Just the sounds alone, the collisions, the pads that pop. They're looking for that on every play. You want to hear the pads pop. You're laying it to them as the pads are popping, and you can hear it every single play. It's not a wonder. Man, a lot of people think, oh, where's the offensive lineman? How do they have head injuries? Your face is, for the most part, out there in front. You're bumping heads with defensive tackles almost on every play, especially if it's running. You're moving forward, and they're moving forward. It's who got the leverage? Who got the technique? Who's stronger? That's kind of where it comes from. So it's violent. It's not going to stop being violent. But I do think there are some things that we can do. We can look at flag football. I think flag football is fun. It's very entertaining. And pretty much everything you do in flag football, be just as entertaining outside of the tackle. Blocking changes a little bit. But at the same time, the amount of actual contact you have with people is lessened. The amount of contact and impact, more so, generally the healthier someone can be. It's a negative stress that's put on the body. Impact. The negative stress that's put on the body. So, I think it's important. Maybe we wait till high school before we allow tackling. Let's make sure the kids are, 14, 15 years old before we're sending them out here to put an ever-developing brain in a situation where it's really... Because cells do two things. Cells either grow and develop, or they don't. If you stress a cell, it doesn't develop. If you apply more stress to a cell, when it does develop, it doesn't develop properly. It's where you get cysts, tumors, cancer from stress. So development can either happen or it doesn't. Stress either stops or inhibits development, or stress can also lead to misdevelopment. Cells not manufacturing themselves in the correct way, duplicating in the right way. But as far as the hitting, it's always going to be there. The NFL has made a pledge to help this situation of violent collisions and essentially putting money into the health and safety of players. And 40 to $100 million is what they're putting in. 40 million of that is going to be where are my figures at? Let me pull it back up here. It went away. It was on the site. On the site. I thought I had the article up on the site. You learned something. They're putting money into providing better situations for players. $100 million towards player health and safety. A lot of people. Well, it's a cop out. It won't do it because they sued. You know, a lot of times people have to realize, don't take the time just to poo-poo on it because you don't like that's the hater. That's a hater, you know? Essentially what it is. You don't like the NFL, so whatever they do, no matter what, you're going to always have a negative. That's what that's what haters do. That's fine if that's who you are, you know. Not me. It's not my MO. You want to do that, fine. You know? I like how a lot of people like to go on Twitter and correct stuff. Yeah, that was actually a situation. That's what I was saying, you know. That Tennessee's athletic director is the interim for all intents and purposes, he's the interim athletic director. Yeah, the reason I say that is for the simple fact that that he's not the guy that they ultimately want. He's trying to help them get a coach and make it more appealing and attractive to fans, because they got to settle things first before they can get deep into who's going to actually be their next coach or lasting athletic director. You know, it's a process. And fans, I'm sorry if you didn't know this. Part of the process that is a stopgap that you're going to be unwittingly exposed to. And you're gonna have to deal with it. So I can't sit here and say that the NFL is great. I mean, admit it. I mean, they've been tone deaf at times. I think it's fair to say that the commissioner has been inconsistent at times. Been tone deaf to domestic violence, to players protesting, in a sense. Injuries like concussions, CTE, TBIs, which are traumatic brain injuries, which is a concussion, but it goes beyond that. So yeah, The NFL says we're going to put $100 million towards player health and safety. I'm going to applaud them. $40 million of the league's allotment, and this is directly from my article, is going to go to, and I quote, new medical research primarily dedicated to neuroscience. All right. The other $60 million, and this is directly from the NFL, $60 million into engineering roadmap, into a project to better understand concussion causing impacts and provide innovators and manufacturers with both novel research and incentives to develop advanced protective equipment. So you can hear that and feel that they are obligated to now do that. But thank God they're obligated. Thank God they feel obligated now. Had they not felt obligated, maybe they don't do it. They are doing something about it. Maybe it isn't ultimately the best you want to happen, but it is something. It's something. Again, $100 million into research, development, engineering, understanding and improving situations that have involved or revolve around neuroscience, concussion causing impacts. That's not bad. If you're thinking of a bad spin for that, you're just an unhappy, upset troll of a person. Truly. I mean, truly. You have to be. Because $100 million to help improve something is a significant contribution. So, yes, while we're on contributions and the NFL, I got a story that's coming out this week. Colin Kaepernick was GQ Magazine's Citizen of the Year. People are upset. Time has him on their short list for Person of the Year. People are upset. The guy, again, I was semi-skeptical at first. I never had an issue with his protest. I would have chose to do it differently, which probably would have made it less effective. Clearly what he did that rubbed people the wrong way is part of the divisiveness of it, even though that's not necessarily what he was looking for. He actually tried to steer clear of it. Is probably what made it a lot more attractive and a lot more it made it more effective. So it worked, and it did spark change in some ways. In others, maybe not change, or maybe negative change for the worst. But I can't sit here and say that people disliking it is a larger part of why why the country is where it is, why society is where it is, why views are what they are. But I can say that it has contributed to it. Those things were already there, latent or not. So, do I think he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league? I still do. I have. He should be starting in the NFL. I don't have any question reserved to that. He is an NFL starter. I'm not saying he's top 15, but he's top 32. He's probably top 20, 25, the lowest. So, he will, this month, will make his final contribution. The final divvying up of the final $100,000. So, of his $1 million pledge, he pledged to donate $1 million to the cause. And it hasn't been one cause, it's been dozens of causes. And he has already put in $900,000. December will mark the million. He's donated out of his own money. And that's not even mentioning the hundreds of thousands that he's donated or helped raise outside of that. So, it's causes and stuff in the community, and despite his career having, as a football player, having to take a back seat, whether he wanted to or not, it did. And he kept moving forward. And he's continually productive. He's still getting gigs, endorsements, deals maybe he might not have gotten otherwise. So I'm all for it. That's great. Happy to hear he's finding success in it. And I'm always happy to hear people having success. That sets me apart from a lot of different people. Some people just can't handle when people are successful. They just can't stand seeing somebody have stuff work for them. So, what else we got? But that will wrap it up for tonight. Is there anything else? I got the Willie Taggart confirmed as head coach. Got an article over on the website on the CHTonsports.com. James Bell, our lead contributor, our lead college football contributor and boxing editor. Several articles up over there on some of the recent coaching hires and college football. So go over and check those out. I'll have some stuff up for college football and the NFL before too long too. I'm sorry, I couldn't get into LeVar Ball. I'll touch on that. Maybe I'll do a podcast on that. I might do a podcast. I might do the To the Half. I do an episode of To the Half. I haven't done it in a while, so it's past due. So maybe I'll put that together this week. But that's all for the show tonight. I appreciate everybody listening in. I know there were several people that called that didn't get in. Thank you so much for calling and listening. You can definitely call each and every week, 347-237-5539. I cannot guarantee that you get on. But if I'm able to, I will definitely try to do so. But that's all I have for you tonight. Cold Hard Truth on Sports. Matthew Long. You can get me at Matt Long Sports. I'm out.